Hello, welcome. I'm just getting started. We got some updates. The world gone crazy. Oh my goodness. Hello, Smickles. Welcome. Oh my goodness. Hello, Denise. Welcome. So, yeah, things are in an interesting space. Biden. That last hurrah. Whew. He is just like nonstop. So, of course, something that's not being shared a lot is the ceasefire deal that Biden has brought about between Israel and Hezbollah. Yay. Not many people are talking about that because they wanted Trump to do that and Biden's. So, that is a big thing. And something that's really interesting that has come up is Trump's team has signed the transition agreement with a catch. So let me look into this a little bit more because I know that there was a lot of back and forth in regards to that and the withholding of the ethics. Of course, there's no ethics on with Voldemort, right? It's the orange Voldemort. So no ethics there. You can look at the team to be like, yeah, and that garnered the Christian vote. Dang. Christian nationalists got to take the Christian out of their name because it ain't that. For sure. All right. Please make sure to like the live because more people need to hear what's up and what's happening. So, after months of delay, the pres-elect has signed paperwork to begin the official transition process with the Biden administration, but the Trump team has refused to sign 2 other agreements. Let's look at those agreements. Oh, come on. Let's open this in a new tab. It's not showing up. Computer. Let me see here. There we go. Of course, unprecedented, has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Biden White House, a move that clears the way for coordination with federal agencies. They'll soon take over. All right. In the Tuesday announcement, Wiles suggested that the Orange Voldemort transition will not sign a separate agreement with the GSA, which would have allowed them to receive federal funding, cybersecurity support, and government office space, pledging instead to fund the transition with private dollars, run out of private facilities, and deploy their own existing security and information protections for sensitive data. So basically, it sounds like Elonia has her hands all over it, is what that sounds like. So they don't want to sign an agreement with the GSA, but the GSA is really important. Because one of the things that I looked up seeing this article was what happens if the Electoral College ends up certifying Kamala Harris? So if they certify another candidate other than the one involved in the transition agreement, the certified candidate becomes official. But it does throw a wrench into the entire situation. Oh. So it brings up an issue within the entire scenario because if the Electoral College is no, Harris won, and this agreement has been signed, then technically it goes to the House of Representatives. But regardless, in the transition, the GSA is very important with that transition. The General Services Administration, because they start handling everything for that. So to go around the General Services Administration, they're making themselves have hurdles in a way. So I don't think this is something that has happened before, which is very odd. That is unusual. And that obviously creates issues for the government to do its thing, and then obviously allows grifters to grift as there are no checks and balances, right? So that is very fascinating. Welcome. Lack of federal cybersecurity support could also make the transition a softer target for foreign hackers who have already successfully done stuff this year. This is something that in 2020 was maybe the most single important worry of that they would be hacked, and all this information, including intelligence information, personal information about job applications, would be threatened. So, of course, there are concerns regarding that. But yeah, they're being shady people, the Orange Voldemort team. And obviously, we already know this because of the people that he's picked on his cabinet, but to go completely outside of the system for general practices and support, obviously ego's there. Obviously, sounds like Alonia's hands are all on that. So that is very fascinating. But there is the concern of, yes, this transition agreement has been signed. So if the Electoral College does say, yes, Harris is the winner, once things are certified, then it goes to the House to decide. Now, we know that the House is biased, right? There is that. And then let's say if things with the House fail, it can go to the Supreme Court. We know that there's issues there. And then ultimately, the Speaker of the House pretty much gets to be interim president. Or I saw in one resource, vice president-elect, and then another resource was like someone from the current presidential campaign. So it's a gray area. It looks like it's the 25th Amendment. I haven't poured through that. But this is just very interesting territory, of course. And as we know, Biden is doing last hurrah stuff. So I think there's, last I saw, more money being pledged to Ukraine to support on their efforts, which, by the way, I know a lot of people are like, oh, why are we funding Ukraine? It's because Ukraine are actually working to help us out because Russia and Alaska are like really close to each other. Not that far at all. Even though some maps make it look really far, it's not that far. We know that Putin has been Putin on the works. And yeah, there's also another country that's involved with that as well, that sent troops over there. Best for our safety that, yes, we do make sure that someone is doing the footwork for us rather than us, and someone who is already in that battle. So that is something to consider within that situation. If you're like, oh, why are we sending all this money over there? Just know that there's a good reason for it. There is really a good reason for it. It's not just money being tossed. There's a good reason for it. But the other aspect of the transition paperwork being signed, but then not fully signed, and then wanting to bypass a very crucial part of this, which is going through the GSA, so that obviously they can hide more of their grifting schemes. That is very unprecedented. I know, we're probably tired of this word, aren't we? The unprecedented word. So that is that. So in the White House memo, The Orange Voldemort transition agreed to important safeguards to protect non-public information and prevent conflicts of interest, including who has access to the information and how the information is shared, and also agreed to publicly share the ethics agreements it is imposing on its own employees. The transition will also have to give the White House the names and current employers of the people who will be serving on their landing teams. The groups who typically enter federal agencies shortly after the election begin familiarizing incoming cabinet members with their budget, staff, and work in progress. People in both parties who previously led federal agencies told Politico, that's where I'm reading from, that the weeks-long delay in signing the agreements and the beginning of transfer of power could slow down or even scuttle the new administration's ambitions, particularly because many of Orange Voldemort's nominees lack experience working in the federal government or managing a big bureaucracy. Surprise! Surprise! And obviously, they're already dropping the ball on things by wanting to handle things on their own. And that is going to cause big problems because obviously, communication and transparency are something that prior to this administration has been hard baked in, right? That's a given. Like, this entity was formed in this way, the government entity was formed in a way to make things easier because there's 50 states. New York is now beginning to take a stance that they will deflect to become part of Canada. I don't blame them. I'm wondering if California is going to stand on its own or be like, yo, Mexico, you want to buy California back? There's a lot of things that can happen. So we are in a very interesting space within the United States and within lifetimes. So let's see. Yeah, of course, people saying that this is not good. Okay, and the other thing, so Orange Voldemort's officials have not signed the DOJ memo. Surprise, right? They don't like dealing with legal system unless they can extort it. In the meantime, they stress that classified information can only be shared with transition team members who already have security clearances, and they must demonstrate to the agency providing the information that it's necessary to have access to that information. And then obviously there's both Democrat and Republican members of Congress have expressed concern that the Orange Voldemort transition has not been conducting FBI background checks of cabinet nominees, warning it could ultimately hurt their chances of getting confirmed. Okay, very interesting spaces. Obviously, Harris had the call the other day, and that call resounded with the similar things that she ended her previous talk with, which was empowerment, be empowered, and then keep staying within groups, within community. The more that we stick together as a community, the more that we come together as a community and support each other and support our power as citizens of the United States, as the people of the United States, the more likely things are going to shift the needle in a better way. If you've been doing everything you can to ensure that democracy happens, it will. If you are not, then that makes it harder for the people that are doing everything that they can. And it's not like going outside of your means. It is doing what you can. Educate yourself. Begin conversations. Begin highlighting the necessities of communities. If you need to leave an area just because of certain policies, such as the Roe v. Wade situation, begin figuring out a way to make that happen. There are lots of people that, some people will be leaving the country, some people will be shuffling things around or making space for others. So start making those connections now. Like, I'm in California, so I might have some leads on some people that are looking for roommates. So there's a lot of opportunities out there for people, and just begin to make some plans now, because I don't even know what's going to happen. All I'm going to say is I'm going to stay the optimist. I'm going to be committed to the course. As a Black woman, I've known that nobody's coming to save me. Now it's teaching that forward. What is it like to live the Black experience? Because a lot of people are going to begin experiencing this stuff now. Understanding that nobody is coming to save us. We get to be the people. We get to take action. We get to step up and not be complacent. And our complacency has made us complicit in allowing this to happen. I'm going to repeat that again. Our complacency is complicit in allowing this to happen. For example, in Colorado, they removed Orange Voldemort from the ballot, which by right, they had the rights to do, but they were pressured to put him back on. And that really shouldn't have happened. More people could have stood up during that moment and been like, no, he needs to be taken off the ballots because of the 14th Amendment and violations of that. This is not cool. But most of us didn't have our ish together. Like, I'm complicit in that, right? My complacency made me complicit. And here we are now, right? So it's seeing these things that could build up to a potential disaster, and beginning to spot these things of like how our rights get eroded, how our voices are taken from us, how we can begin to spot those, and then how do we get to shift it? How do we get to shift things into a better space? How do we get to make things work better in the way that they were intended to? Because right now they are not working in the way that they're intended to. Like, we have two people who are flexing, let's say, certain privileges coupled together, right? There is a specific sort of privilege that is granted in this country, and when that is coupled with money, look at where we've gotten to. A bunch of grifters grifting and being problematic on an international scale. So there is that we get to look at and be like, okay, what brought us here, and what can we do now at this point in time, not waiting. Now, I know that Thanksgiving is tomorrow, but even just sending an email, sending a few letters, it can be that simple, just to put something out there, getting educated on what's happening, understanding the situation, and not being like, we're screwed all the time. Don't go down that pathway. That pathway just leads to being screwed over. It literally will. Because if that's what you're seeing, that's what you choose to see, that's what you're going to focus on. I forget what the actual term is, but it's like when you buy a new car, you begin seeing that same car that you just got all over the place. And you didn't really notice it before. Like, all of a sudden you're just like, oh, wow, everybody's driving this car now. And that's because of how the subconscious works. So since you've acquired something, you're like more aware of it, right? So when you acquire a thought of, it's screwed, you're going to be more aware of that. And you're going to begin to see more of that instead of seeing possibilities. No matter what, there's possibilities, right? And this is where positive affirmations come in, even though I'm like, there's a little catch to positive affirmations, okay? So instead of like being wishful and wanting things to just magically turn out, it's no, I choose to see the opportunities. What opportunities are available to me right now? What can I do at this moment? What can I create? What can I make happen here and now? What can I do in this space, and what can I look forward to in the future? What can I work towards in the future? It's not just, it's screwed, we're giving up, whatever, I don't know, I can't do anything. Melting in a puddle of goo. Instead, you can have your emotions. Definitely process your emotions, but then pick yourself up and go, what opportunities exist in this scenario? Do I need to leave my area? How can I make that happen? Who do I know that's out there in that area that I want to get to? Is there any jobs out there that maybe I can do? Or is it remote? Or these different scenarios and situations that you get to begin to consider just to make sure that you are safe and supported. So even though things can look bleak, there is always, as long as you're here, as long as you're living, as long as you're breathing, there is always a way through. And begin to focus on that. And then begin to focus on what's actually happening around you. Is the world falling down around you right now if you're watching this? And if I'm speaking here on this live, chances are no. No, it's not. You're able to be in a space that is safe-ish and be here right now, right? So it's focusing on those sorts of things that you can get your mind out of a doom spiral and start getting yourself into, what can I do about this? What can I create from this? What do I want to create in the future? And that ultimately will support you. So just a quick recap. The Orange Voldemort administration has signed the White House agreement after delaying. They've left out some very key things, which are also very concerning, like a key factor in the transition, and things like Department of Justice stuff. So it is an awkward space. Now, once this agreement has been signed, it's a done deal, but if the Electoral College decides to certify Harris, then things get very interesting. Of course, there's going to be a lot of clapback, and then it goes to the House, and then some other things might happen. This isn't something that's happened before with a president-elect not signing the complete agreement for transition. And then, of course, Biden being Biden, he's been doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. More money for Ukraine. Obviously, there was a ceasefire that was agreed to and is being worked on with Israel and Hezbollah. Let me see. And Biden-Harris administration has catalyzed $1 trillion in new U.S. private sector clean energy, semiconductor, and other advanced manufacturing investment. What else? All right. Arms sale. Let me see here, because there's a lot of stuff that happened. Okay. So things like Wegovy and Ozempic will be covered by Medicare under Biden proposal. It's a proposal, but that hasn't been gone through yet. And then New York has brought up the fact that if Orange Voldemort goes into office, that they will secede and go be with Canada. So, yeah, that's interesting. And definitely California is going to be making some moves like that as well. Those are already being preempted, and so we'll see. It's a brave new world out there, folks. All I can ask for you to do is stay empowered, stay safe, do the best you can within the situation, and do the best you can in getting the result that you want to create to happen. And just remember, have those fallback plans. Anything can happen. So don't get so caught up on things that you create disappointment and then go into a downward spiral. Be in a space of empowerment. And that is not like you're empowered now, and then tomorrow you're just like the wind's out of your sails because unrealistic expectations, right? Anything can happen. The worst thing is to be in that downward spiral, because then you're not going to be able to do the things that you need to do, and you're not going to be able to work towards the things that you want to work towards. So best thing to do is remain empowered, know your power, know what is within your control to control. And that is where your energy goes, where your attention flows, right? If you're paying attention to something, your energy is going to go towards that thing. So make sure that you are considering that very clearly within what you do. And also be careful of the people that you're watching, because I'm seeing content out there that's, oh, this is happening, yeah. And they're just full of fluff. Like, I want to be real with people, so that's why I'm getting this information out there. A lot of people on the Harris call were like, oh, we're screwed. And no, not necessarily. We're in new waters. That doesn't mean you're screwed. Like, people have traversed oceans and have gotten to places. Not fine, but they've gotten there, okay? And Harris has definitely said, this is going to be a fight. It is going to be interesting. It just stay empowered, stay connected. That's the best that you can do within the situation. I am going to hop off, get to bed, get some work done. And yeah, I am working on publishing a book that is to help people to manifest things for their optimal future. I do want to get that done by Cyber Monday. I don't know if I will, but I get to bust my behind, cook a amazing meal tomorrow, and get that done. I wish you a good morning, good night, or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for tuning in. Bitterroot Steve, I just noticed you joined. I'll post some clips of this, but that's a recap and the situation at hand. Things are interesting. Very unprecedented. See you later.